Legislative Bill 1040, introduced by Senator Albright. It's a bill for enacting the Vital Statistics Act to define in turn, provide for certificates of non-viable birth as prescribed, to harmonize provisions, and repeal original sections. The bill was introduced on January 17th of this year, referred to the Health and Human Services Committee, placed on general file with committee amendments.
Senator Albright, you're welcome to open on LB1040.
Thank you, Speaker Scheer. Colleagues, LB1040 is a bill to help grieving families by creating an optional commemorative birth certificate for mothers who lose a pregnancy prior to 20 weeks gestation. We know that 1 in 4 women will experience a miscarriage, and a much higher percentage of all those pregnancies end this way. The vast majority of these losses occur within the first 3 months of pregnancy. Every pregnancy loss is a tragedy that has a profound impact on women and entire families, yet most go unrecognized. Any woman who has ever miscarried knows the pain and loss are real, no matter the gestation. Whether a pregnancy is lost at 5 weeks, 12 weeks, 19 weeks, or 20 weeks and beyond, the pain of that loss can be severe and should be recognized and honored for those who wish to do so. Currently, the state of Nebraska offers birth certificates for pregnancies that end at or after 20 weeks gestation. This is due to the work of former State Senator Danielle Conrad, who carried a bill that was passed by the Nebraska Legislature in 2008 to make this option available to women and families. I have introduced LB 1040 to build on this legacy of helping grieving women and families by extending the same courtesy through a new type of optional commemorative birth certificate for those who suffer a pregnancy loss prior to 20 weeks. Last year, Florida became the first state to make a special type birth certificate available to women and families who lose a pregnancy prior to 20 weeks, and I believe it is time that we do the same. LB 1040 is a unifying bill drafted to ensure that there is no confusion or complications over what this new certificate is and is not. The certificate created under LB 1040 is commemorative and has no legal effect. There are also provisions clearly stating that this is not an official birth certificate or legal document. It is a commemorative certificate for women who lose a pregnancy that has been verified by a health care practitioner prior to 20 weeks gestation. It cannot be used to calculate live birth statistics and must be requested by the patient. It is not required or automatically administered. If a woman chooses to make this request, a healthcare practitioner simply gives her a letter or signs a form created by the health department of the Health and Human Service verifying the miscarriage, and the woman sends her request for a certificate along with a note from her or form verifying that the miscarriage goes to the Health Department of Health and Human Services. The requesting patient pays for the cost of issuing the certificate, so there is no cost to the state. The certificate is to contain a name if given by the requesting patient and gender if known. If no name is given, the department shall fill in the certificate with the name baby boy or baby girl and the last name of the patient. And if the gender of the child is also unknown, the department shall fill in the certificate with the name baby and the last name of the patient. The committee has introduced a friendly amendment that provides some additional language that the Nebraska Hospital Association had asked for, and makes clear that the commemorative certificate created under this bill is different from the current definition of certificate under the Vital Statistics Act that should remove the original fiscal note given by the Department of Health and Human Services. I will let Senator Reapy go into a further detail on that amendment, but I am proud to say that LB 1040 had no opposition in the committee hearing and advanced from Health and Human Services unanimously. This bill is supported by the Nebraska Hospital Association, and several letters of support were submitted by doctors and OBGYNs who desire to see this certificate made available to their patients. I would especially like to thank all of the courageous mothers, Jennifer Sommer, Laura Linder, Marcy Pita, Jennifer Henning, Audrey Pace, Lisa Breesley, for bravely coming to testify at the committee hearing to tell their stories and describe how these certificates would mean the world to them and their families. That's who this bill is for, the mother forced to say goodbye to that child that she loved and longed for before she gets to say hello. For the father who's forced to helplessly watch his wife in labor or in pain only to bury their child. For the parents who hold their children in their hearts instead of their arms and know it doesn't matter when the miscarriage happens because the pain is just as real as the pregnancy. These mothers and fathers are suffering silently, they grieve quietly, and frequently feel hopeless and alone, and they don't receive the same sense of closure and validation that they are seeking that they deserve. All too often, accompanying a searing pain of miscarriage is the reality that because you were short of 20 weeks of gestation mark, maybe only a few days from the 20-week gestation mark, there is no birth certificate or anything to say that you had a loss and it was real. The fact is that for many families, when they experience this type of pregnancy and loss, they grieve the loss wholeheartedly, and an earlier loss doesn't mean it mattered any less or there is any less mourning. By offering the choice of recognizing the loss of a pregnancy prior to 20 weeks, the state of Nebraska can help support the 1 in 4 women who will suffer a miscarriage and show these grieving parents that they are supported and not alone by allowing them to receive something tangible that acknowledges and validates their loss. I think this is the best, or the least actually, we can do for those who have already been denied so much. And LB1040, again, is a simple way that we can help moms and families going through one of life's most difficult trials, and I ask for your green vote on the bill and the committee amendment. Thank you.
Senator Repe, as Chair of Health and Human Services, you're welcome to open on the committee amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues in Nebraska, and thank you to Senator Albright for this sensitive and very responsive piece of legislation. AM 1995 is a clarifying amendment which provides a few technical changes. The amendment provides the definition of commemorative certificate. This definition addresses the concerns of the Department of Health and Human Services regarding the fiscal note and should eliminate the one-time expense since the commemorative certificates are not to be counted for vital statistics. It is my understanding once the committee amendment is adopted, there will still be a minimal cash fund fiscal impact for processing these commemorative certificates. However, the department is estimating the revenue will almost meet the expenditure for processing the certificates. If the revenue does not exceed these minimal expenses, the funds will come from the Vital Statistics Cash Fund. The committee amendment also allows the healthcare practitioner to delegate the duty of notifying the parent of the availability and ability to request a commemorative certificate. This is necessary as the healthcare practitioner is not always the correct person to deliver this information. It may be the grieving nurse, therefore this delegation language allows for flexibility. There's a change of vocabulary from certifying to verifying for content of the letter issued to the patient. There is also a requirement for the Department of Health and Human Services to provide a form on its website that may be used by a healthcare practitioner to designate to affirm the non-viability of the birth. This will help the healthcare practitioner with a standard form that may be used. After talking to a legislative fiscal officer, this requirement should not have a fiscal impact to the department. Now that I have talked about the technicalities of the amendment, I would like to share one of these women's stories. The Health and Human Services Committee Legal Counsel, Kristen Stifler, is one of these warrior moms and assisted with the drafting of this bill. I share this story with you with Kristen's full permission. Kristen miscarried shortly after the session opened. And this warrior mom and warrior moms like Kristen have enormous strength. These women go about their daily lives carrying the memory of their babies, and I believe the legislature should allow these mothers the opportunity to grieve and honor the babies they will never hold with this commemorative certificate. I'm a strong supporter of LB 1040. I believe it's the right thing to do. It's the sensitive and kind thing to do. and ask for your green vote on AM 1995 and the underlying bill of LB 1040. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Rapey. Senator Bowles, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Albright yield to a question?
Senator Albright, would you please yield?
Sir. Yes. Senator Albright, I think what I heard you say regarding this bill was that it's your goal to help and support mothers and to make them feel as though they are not alone when they have experienced a non-viable birth. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. And would it be your preference, if you could have a preference, if you could have a say, if it were yours to influence, that no woman would ever experience this painful set of circumstances?
Say the first part again.
If you could decide, would it be your preference that no woman would ever have to go through this painful experience?
Well, a lot of us don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's not in our makeup to make it happen. We wish it wouldn't, and
if you could prevent it, would you? If there was something you could do?
Well, I would feel if I could prevent it, I would have the power of the Lord. Because I've experienced myself, it's not something that you can choose whether it's going to happen or not. It's a miscarriage.
Okay. Well, I think there are things that we can do to prevent non-viable births. Specifically, mothers who receive late or no prenatal care are more likely to have babies with health problems, and mothers who do not receive prenatal care are 3 times more likely to give birth to a low-weight baby, and their baby is 5 times more likely to die. And that's heartbreaking to me. And when I have opportunities available to me to try to do something to try to make people more healthy and prevent difficult health circumstances, I think it's part of my obligation to do that. And that is why I am working as much as I can to protect access to prenatal care through our budget, and why we must find a fix to the Title X language in our budget. And I'm not rising to stir the pot or pull off scabs on this conversation. I'm not rising to reopen the budget debate, because we are working as hard as we can and every day to find a solution. But I could not let this opportunity pass by without saying that if you support this legislation, if you support 1040, I beg you to also support the opportunity to prevent non-viable births when possible by supporting access to prenatal care and taking no chances with that access. So the stack of information is still on my desk. We're still working. We'll be working tomorrow. We'll be doing everything we can do. And I hope that if you push your green light on this bill, you'll be open to a solution on the budget bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Bowles. Senator McAllister, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good evening, colleagues. My youngest child is 33 years old, so it's been a long time since I've dealt with birth certificates. But it's my recollection that the hospitals issue the birth certificate. Senator Albright, is that correct?
Senator
Would you
Albright,
yield to a question?
No, I don't believe it is the hospital that offers that.
So I know what the state issues the legal birth certificate, but isn't that process initiated by the hospital?
I'm quite certain they would give him some information, yes.
I'm just curious, this commemorative certificate that we're considering here, does that have any legal standing at all?
No, it does not.
I'm curious to know then, why is the HHS department involved at all in the process for such a commemorative certificate when it in effect has no legal standing?
Because I do think they also take care of the birth certificate.
Can you repeat that?
Because they also take care of the birth certificate.
The birth certificate, as we just indicated, has a legal standing, correct?
Correct. And this does not.
This does not. So why would they have any influence or any desire to indicate there's no death certificate involved in such a birth, is there?
No, there isn't. That could be next year.
I see. Can you answer me why the HHS department is involved when there is no birth or death certificate?
Because when the patient loses that child, there has to be a doctor that validates that that baby was in fact alive. And at that time, the parent has a choice when the miscarriage happens if they would like that viable commemorative certificate to remember the day that it happened, what gender, and give the baby a name so they can share that date with their family for the rest of their lives.
I understand the answer. In fact, the same occurrence happened in our family, so I'm not trying to be unsensitive to the plight of a mother in which this occurs. I'll ask Senator Reapy if he'd yield to the same question.
Senator Reapy, would you please yield?
Yes, I would.
The question is, HHS recognizes live birth certificates by presenting the family with a certificate, and that has legal